When the rebooted Hitman came out in 2016, it came with a ton of new surprises and challenges. It was a new version of the already loved game series, and fans were very receptive to it. A couple of years later, Hitman 2 was finally released, and it was a much improved version of the first game that came out a couple years prior. Everything was improved upon in very good ways, and it just felt like a better experience with a ton of new maps and challenges. Finally, Hitman 3. The game came out about a week before we made this video, so we have had a lot of time to play and just take in as much as this game had to offer. This is Chug from Keyboard Gaming, and this is our review on Hitman 3. As with the improvements that Hitman 2 brought to Hitman 1, Hitman 3 is no different. They took everything that fans loved about the previous two titles and just made everything better. I don't want to say everything right now because that is what the rest of the video is about, but I will say this, that it is the best game out of the 3 World of Assassination Hitman games. One game-changing thing that the developers did with these games is remaster the previous game's maps for the most recent one. That means if you own Hitman 1 and 2, you will get to play all the maps and challenges from those previous 2 games in Hitman 3. It is like having access to the entire trilogy in one game. I think that is a brilliant idea, and it saves space on whatever device you're playing it on. We wanted to talk about the graphics first, because they are absolutely incredible in this game. I'm only going to put in previous games maps and first couple from 3, so I don't spoil too many areas for you, but there were times I just walked around and admired the scenery. The reflections are probably my favorite part of the graphics, because it just makes the game feel that much more realistic. I don't even have an RTX graphics card, and I'm still impressed by the graphics. The NPCs look better, and they also remastered the older maps to have better reflections and lighting as well. The performance is actually very good, because there were only a few times that I actually saw some sort of frame drop. We play on PC, and we never ran into a problem where we needed to turn the graphics down at all. On PS5, it runs pretty much perfectly, but I did hear there were some frame drops on the older consoles, so keep that in mind. If you do get Hitman 3, make sure to either own the previous games or buy the access pass to the previous games, because it is well worth the money. There is surprisingly a ton of content in this game, even if you don't have access to the previous game's missions. Technically, you can beat the game in about 8 to 10 hours if you speed through it, but once you beat the missions for the first time, that is when everything opens up to you. The game is made to be replayed, because the more you complete a mission, the more items you unlock and get to start with. The map masteries also give you different starting locations and starting outfits, so you complete the challenges a little bit easier. There are a ton of challenges to complete as well if you are not familiar with the previous 2 games. Each map has a ton of ways you can assassinate your target, and there are also classic challenges and discovery challenges. Basically, you can spend as much time in this game as you want, and you can keep going till you 100% the game if you really wanted to. The content put into this game seems like not that much, but when you actually play it, you know that it is easier said than done. The mechanics are by far my favorite in any stealth game out there. I mainly play on keyboard and mouse, but a controller feels extremely smooth since there are not any jerky movements from the WASD buttons. The gun mechanics feel amazing, especially the silenced pistols. The movement is very smooth, and even the maps were created with the idea to give the player a bunch of different ways to get around. IO Interactive took out the ghost mode because it wasn't really doing very well, but they did keep in Sniper Assassin for those who do own Hitman 2. All the challenges you could do are the key factor in this game because there are just so many ways to complete your mission. I do have to say that the last map of the game is not very good because it is linear. It is supposed to be the ending of the series, but I'm not really a huge fan of it. The other 5 maps that Hitman 3 gives you are absolutely incredible. As I said before, I'm not going to spoil anything in this video, so I'm only going to put in content from the first couple maps. If you enjoy the content we give you, then go ahead and hit that like button. We'd really appreciate your support to keep doing what we do, and hope that you will check out everything that we offer. We do have a gaming podcast that we put out every 2 weeks, so if you're interested, then make sure to go and check it out. This section is for the people who have not played the previous 2 games. I'm going to explain very quickly how the World of Assassination games work, so if you already know, you can skip ahead. Basically, there are maps, and each of them have either the main mission, escalations, and bonus missions. The main missions are pretty self-explanatory. You beat them to progress the story. Escalations are the hardest challenges the game has to offer. They have you complete missions very specifically, and if you don't follow them to a T, you will fail and have to restart them. You usually get a costume or weapon for completing these, and they are some of the most fun missions the game has. The bonus missions are side missions or bonus campaigns, and they take place on the same maps, but they are like little mini stories that you could play. Each of the different types of missions have a ton of challenges for them, so they are made to be replayed. You get profile experience and mastery experience for completing these missions as perfect as possible. There's probably so much more I could tell you, but that pretty much sums up what these 3 games are like. I am not going to dwell very long on this subject, but as I said before, the game is meant to be replayed. There are so many ways to assassinate your target, and you can also discover everything about the map you are playing. Everything you complete will give you experience in both categories, and as you master each area, you will get more and more items for your Hitman arsenal. If you can master every map, you will have so many items you probably won't even get to use all of them. These games are meant to be replayed, or else you might not get your money's worth out of it like most other people do. There is so much content in this game that there are YouTube channels dedicated to just playing these 3 games. If you like to replay games, then this might become your favorite game. The music score is surprisingly good in Hitman 3. It seemed as if each game came out, the music would get more intense. This game has the most intense music of all the Hitman games, and that is on purpose. It is the last game in the World of Assassination trilogy, so you have to have the most intense music. The way the developers implemented the music is great, because the music picks up when you first start the mission, when you are in an intense situation, or when you are exiting the mission. It comes on at just the right times, and it does not interfere with anything you are doing. It is a great soundtrack that you will appreciate at just the right moments. People might ask the question if there's a story to these games, and the answer is yes. I actually didn't care much for the story up until I played Hitman 2, and it is actually pretty good. I would say most people, me included, played it for the fun of being a hitman in a large sandbox where we could pretty much do whatever we wanted. The story is pretty interesting altogether because it is a fairly large story that is concluded with Hitman 3. Going off topic for a second, IO Interactive has confirmed that this is not the last Hitman game in the future, and the next project they are working on is a 007 game trilogy, which sounds pretty cool. The story in these games are pretty good, but if you don't get it for the story, get it for the fun you will have completing all the challenges the game throws at you. One of the best things about these games is how much time and effort was put into the maps for this game. There are a ton of small details that the only way you might find them is just by looking for them. I would also say that one map in particular had some of the most gruesome but satisfying ways to eliminate your target. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you could throw people into giant crushers and massive hydraulic presses. As you may think about what those can actually do to a human being, it does just that in the game. It is gruesome, but I'm glad they added at least one map that lets you go a little overboard with what you are used to. The maps are just so well designed and are worth playing over and over again. One main thing that was added in this game is the way you can open up shortcuts that will always be open once you unlock them. This makes it easier for you from place to place without going all the way around. It is a great addition to the series. I would definitely say you should buy this game. You can play it in an older and a new generation consoles and on PC. The only downside of getting it on PC is that you can't transfer Hitman 2 locations over as of right now, but it will open up in the future. All the details and challenges in this game are worth your time because it is so satisfying when you are fully mastering a location. The classic missions are fun because they are some of the hardest missions available besides escalations. I would also recommend buying the access passes for the previous 2 games if you don't own them already. Or if you do own them, you could just transfer them over to Hitman 3 at no extra charge. I would say this game is worth $60 unless you really want to wait for a sale. I hope you found this video helpful, and make sure to like and subscribe. Also, check out our Discord where we play with our subscribers often and ask them for future ideas. We have a gaming podcast as well if you are interested. All links are in the description, and thanks for watching.